All right, so get this. Today we're diving into a career path I bet you never really thought about.
Uh-huh.
Blender operator.
Okay.
Yeah, we're talking like flavored water. That stuff that's always like in your fridge, you know?
Right,
You
right.
wanted to know more about this job, and honestly, it's way more complex than it sounds.
Absolutely.
And thanks to RoleCatcher, we've got some really cool resources to break it all down.
Yeah, their stuff is great.
So we're going to uncover what really goes into making those like super refreshing drinks. You ready?
I am. Let's do it.
Okay, because like I always thought it was just, mix some water and flavoring, done.
You and me both, right? But there's a lot more to it.
Right. And then I saw RoleCatcher's career guide, and I was like, whoa, there's sugar ratios, acidity regulators. It's
Yeah.
like a whole
It
science.
really is. It's fascinating.
Totally. Like they said, even messing up a tiny bit of citric acid can't like ruin an entire batch.
That's right.
Can you imagine the pressure?
Yeah, no kidding. That's why those blender operators, they got to be on point with their food science.
Makes sense.
It's not just about following a recipe, it's about really understanding why each ingredient is there, you know?
Yeah. So every bottle tastes exactly how it should.
Exactly. Consistency is key, right? I
Exactly.
mean, you grab your favorite mango water, you expect that same taste every time.
Totally. You want that guarantee. And it's not just about making the same flavors again and again, is it?
No, not at
Because RoleCatcher was saying, like, blender operators can get in on making new flavors too.
Oh, for sure.
That's got to be cool, right? Like coming up with the next big drink craze.
Yeah, that would be awesome, right? Imagine being the one who invented, I don't know, pickle flavored sparkling water or something.
Okay, pickle might be a stretch, but you know what I mean.
Right, maybe not pickle.
Mhm.
But the point is, there's definitely room to get creative, play with those ingredients.
Totally. So say someone's like really into this whole blender operator thing now.
Hmm.
What's the job market look like?
Well, it's actually a great time to be in the beverage industry.
Really?
Yeah, the non-alcoholic beverage market is like booming right now, especially for the healthier drinks.
Right, right.
So by 2030, it's predicted to hit over $3 trillion globally, which means
Lots of jobs.
lots of jobs.
That's awesome. Okay, so job security check.
For sure.
But what about actually landing one of these blender operator gigs? What do you need?
Well,
RoleCatcher mentioned hands-on experience, keeping up with trends, and food safety stuff. All important, I'm sure.
oh, super important. It's a lot more than just, working the machinery. You got to understand the why behind everything you do.
So you need practical skills, but also, like, always be learning, right?
Yeah.
Because the trends change so fast.
Absolutely. And the regulations, too. It's a lot to stay on top of.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Which is where RoleCatcher comes in handy.
Exactly.
Okay, but public safety and security for flavored water? What's that about? It's not like dangerous chemicals, right?
Well, not dangerous exactly, but there are risks involved.
Yeah.
There have been those recalls because of contamination or wrong ingredients listed, things like that.
Right.
So it's a serious thing. The blender operators, they're handling a lot of ingredients. Some could be hazardous if not handled properly. Plus, they're the ones making sure the drinks meet all the safety standards.
Wow, so it's a huge responsibility.
It really is. That's why RoleCatcher talks about certifications and constantly learning. You always have to be up to date.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so we've established this job is way more complex than it seems at first glance. What's a typical day even like for a blender operator? RoleCatcher had those examples, right?
Yes. They broke it down by career stage.
Right, which I thought was super helpful because then you can really picture it.
Definitely. And it shows how much your responsibilities change as you gain experience, which is cool.
Okay, so like a trainee, what do they even do? Lots of shadowing, I bet.
A lot of shadowing, yeah.
Maybe more cleaning than actual blending at first.
You'd be surprised. Sanitation is super important.
Oh, I bet. But yeah, at that stage, it's all about soaking up knowledge. Watching a more experienced blender operator, learning how to prep the ingredients, understanding all the procedures. It's about getting a solid foundation.
Like a culinary boot camp, but for beverages.
Exactly.
Instead of perfectly seared scallops, you've got the perfect raspberry lime spritzer.
That's a great way to put it. But then when you move up to junior blender operator, that's when things get really hands-on.
Okay, so like no more safety net of being the trainee.
Right, you're in the thick of it now. It's like you've graduated culinary school and now you're in a real kitchen for the first time.
Right, no more practice recipes.
You're not just watching anymore. You're the one behind the counter, putting everything you've learned to the test.
So way more responsibility.
Yeah.
And like real pressure to get it right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You're running the blending equipment, getting those recipes just right, and most importantly,
What's that?
you're responsible for the final product.
Whoa, that's a lot of pressure. All those measurements, the timing, everything. You got it. A junior blender operator has to be on their toes, thinking fast. What if you need to adjust ingredients on the fly? What if something goes wrong?
Right, right. Got to be ready for anything.
And you can't let the pressure get to you. You still need to be organized, efficient, keep that workspace clean.
Man, it's like a high-stakes flavor ballet or something. You
Hmm.
need that precision, the timing.
I like that, the flavor ballet.
But what happens after you've mastered the junior blender operator level? Is it straight to management?
Not necessarily, although that is definitely a path for people with those leadership qualities.
Right.
But even if you're on track to becoming a senior blender operator, those management skills are still super important.
Really? Why is that? I figured at that point it's all about knowing those like really complex recipes and
Oh,
techniques.
it's way more than that because now you're not just responsible for your own work.
Uh-huh.
You're overseeing the entire team's blending process.
Oh.
You're mentoring the newer folks, making sure everyone's hitting those quality standards. And if there are any equipment issues, you're the one they come to.
So you're like the problem solver.
Exactly.
So it's like this blend of like technical knowledge, but also leadership, right? Like
Mhm.
a conductor for an orchestra, but instead of music, it's flavors.
That's a perfect way to put it. And just like a conductor needs to know how each instrument sounds, a senior blender operator knows the ins and outs of every ingredient.
This is blowing my mind. And we
Ooh.
haven't even gotten to those certifications that RoleCatcher mentioned.
Right. Those certifications, they usually come in when a blender operator, they've got some experience under their belt and want to specialize or aim for those higher level positions.
Makes sense. Like
Yeah.
it shows you're serious about it. Yeah.
Exactly. It's a commitment to your craft, to constantly learning and improving.
Like leveling up in a video game almost, getting those badges.
You like that analogy?
But they're not just for show, are they? You have
Yeah.
to actually know your stuff to get certified.
Oh, absolutely. We're talking rigorous exams here. They cover advanced blending techniques, food safety regulations, quality assurance, all kinds of stuff.
Wow, so it's a pretty big deal to get those.
It is, yeah. It shows potential employers.
Yeah.
You're not just there to blend, you're there to excel.
Right, like you're going places.
Exactly.
Speaking of going places, RoleCatcher also said that being a blender operator can lead to other jobs in the food and beverage industry.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
What are some of those, like what else could you do with that experience?
The possibilities are endless. You could become a quality control specialist using your knowledge of flavors to make sure everything meets the highest standards. Or you could even go into research and development, coming up with the next generation of drinks.
So starting out as a blender operator, it's like opening the door to a whole world of opportunities.
That's what's so cool about it. And the skills you learn along the way, like attention to detail, problem solving, being able to work quickly, those are valuable in any field, really.
It's amazing to me that something that seems as simple as flavored water can lead to so many different paths.
I know, right? It really shows you how complex and important this job is.
Totally. But we've talked a lot about skills and qualifications. What about the challenges? What do blender operators actually face day to day?
One of the biggest challenges is something we talked about earlier, maintaining consistency.
Really? You mean like making sure each batch of, say, strawberry kiwi tastes exactly the same?
Exactly. It seems simple, but think about it. When you're making huge quantities of drinks.
Right, right. It's not just a single serving.
Exactly. Even the tiniest difference in ingredients, temperatures, how long it's blended, all of that can change the taste.
Wow, so you really do need to understand the science behind it all.
You got it. A good blender operator, they know that precision is key.
And it's not just about the blending itself, is it?
Nope. You have to keep track of inventory, make sure the ingredients are good quality, and keep really detailed records of everything you make.
So it's like a balance of science, precision, but then also like intuition.
That's a good way to put it. And on top of all that, you have the pressure of keeping up with what consumers want.
Oh, right. We talked about that a little before. The beverage industry is constantly changing, isn't it?
Constantly. What's popular today might be old news tomorrow. People are looking for healthier drinks, new flavors, then they want companies to be sustainable too.
So how do blender operators keep up with all of that?
Well, it goes back to what we were saying about always learning and adapting.
It's a lot to keep up with. So they're basically like flavor scientists,
Right.
right? Always experimenting, coming up with new things.
That's a great way to think about it. And like any good scientist, they're always learning, always
Yeah.
pushing the boundaries.
Okay, so how do they actually do that? Like in their everyday work, how do they stay ahead of the curve?
Well, going to industry conferences and workshops is huge. It's a chance to dive into the latest trends, hear from the experts about new technologies and ingredients, and also just connect with other people who are passionate about beverages.
I bet you get some amazing ideas of those things.
Oh, for sure. But what about those who can't just jet off to a conference every week?
Right. Most people have jobs. They
Yeah.
can't just drop everything.
Exactly. And that's where online resources are so valuable these days.
Oh, yeah, the internet's got everything.
Right. There are tons of webinars, online courses, industry publications.
So you can stay up to date without even leaving your house.
Exactly. You can be at your blending station, learning about the latest breakthroughs.
That's pretty awesome. So let's say you've put in the time, you've got the experience, and you're ready for that next step in your career.
Time to move on up.
Exactly. What does RoleCatcher say about, like, leveling up in the flavored water world?
Well, they're all about taking initiative. Don't wait for opportunities, create them.
I like that.
So if you're ready to move beyond just blending, maybe you volunteer for a leadership role on your team.
Sure. Oh, okay. Or you mentor some of the newer blender operators. Or maybe you take on a special project where you can show off your skills.
So it's all about showing them what you can do, go in that extra mile.
Exactly. Prove you can handle more responsibility.
Now, what about those who are really aiming for management?
The leaders of the pack.
Right. What do they need?
Well, RoleCatcher says communication and people skills are super important for that next level.
Makes sense. You're not just making the drinks anymore, you're managing the people who make the drinks.
Exactly. So you need to be a good communicator, know how to delegate, and be able to motivate your team.
So it's like this balance of being a flavor expert, but also a people person.
Exactly. A unique combination.
Now, RoleCatcher also mentioned something else. Starting your own business.
Oh, yeah. That's the dream for a lot of people in this field.
It's like the ultimate way to express your creativity, right? This is my flavor vision.
I love that flavor
Yeah.
vision. And RoleCatcher, they actually give some great advice for aspiring entrepreneurs. Okay, like what do they say?
Well, all the basics are there.
Yeah.
Writing a business plan, figuring out funding, dealing with regulations, all that important stuff. But they also talk about finding your niche market,
Yeah.
what makes your drink special.
Right. Got to stand out from the crowd.
Exactly. And of course, they talk about developing those unique flavor profiles. That's what it's all about, right?
Totally. So it's like taking everything you've learned from working for someone else and then like turning it into your own thing.
Exactly. It's pretty inspiring, honestly, taking that leap and creating something that's truly yours.
This whole deep dive has been amazing. Honestly, I never thought I'd be so fascinated by flavored water.
Right. It just goes to show there's always more than meets the eye.
For sure. And big thanks to RoleCatcher for being our guide for this whole thing.
Yes, their resources are incredible.
Uh,
We've definitely opened my eyes to a career path I didn't know much about before.
Me too.
Mm.
So to everyone listening, if you're into science, but you also love getting creative.
And who doesn't love a refreshing beverage?
Yeah.
Exactly. Maybe becoming a blender operator is the perfect fit for you.
It could be your recipe for success.
All right, everyone, that's it for this deep dive into the world of flavored water. Who knew? It was so complex.
And so exciting.
Until next time, stay curious and stay thirsty for knowledge.